The story begins in the ancient city of Jerusalem, where silence ruled the deserts and the winds carried the whispers of revelation. In a world overshadowed by corruption and arrogance, there lived a young woman named Mariam, known to the world as Mary, a woman of purity, worship, and complete devotion to her Creator. From her earliest years, she had chosen solitude in the worship of Allah, spending her days and nights in prayer in the sacred chambers of the temple. The people knew her as righteous, untouched by worldly desires, and favored by her Lord. The Qur'an tells us that every time Prophet Zechariah entered her room, he found provisions, fruits and food, though no one had entered before him. Astonished, he would ask, "Mariam, where is this from?" And she would reply, "It is from Allah. Indeed, Allah provides for whom He wills without measure." This was a sign, a preparation for something far greater than anyone could imagine. One night, when the air was still and the moonlight bathed the temple walls in silver, Mariam felt a strange calm descend upon her heart. A radiant being appeared before her, the angel Jibril, sent by Allah. Fear gripped her at first, for she was alone, but the angel spoke softly, "Do not fear, Mariam. I'm only a messenger from your Lord, sent to give you glad tidings of a pure son." Her voice trembled as she said, "How can I have a son when no man has touched me, nor have I been unchaste?" And the angel replied, "So it will be. Your Lord says, 'It is easy for me. We shall make him a sign for humanity and a mercy from us.'" From that moment, destiny unfolded in silence. Mariam left the temple and withdrew to a faraway place. Time passed, and soon the signs of pregnancy appeared. Alone and misunderstood, she bore the whispers of the people who could not comprehend what had happened. When her time came, she withdrew beneath a palm tree in the desert, exhausted and in pain. In that moment of agony, she cried out, "Oh, I wish I had died before this and been forgotten completely." But the mercy of Allah descended again. A voice called from beneath her, "Do not grieve. Your Lord has provided a stream beneath you. Shake the trunk of the palm tree. Fresh dates will fall upon you. So eat, drink, and be comforted." Mariam gathered her strength, took her newborn child in her arms, and returned to her people. Shock filled their eyes as they saw her carrying a baby. "Mariam," they said, "you have done something terrible. O sister of Harun, your father was not an evil man, nor was your mother unchaste." But Mariam spoke no word. She simply pointed to the infant. The people were confused. "How can we speak to a baby in the cradle?" they mocked. Then the newborn spoke. "By the will of Allah, I am the servant of Allah," the baby said. "He has given me the scripture and made me a prophet. He has blessed me wherever I may be, and commanded me to pray and give charity as long as I live. And he has made me dutiful to my mother, not arrogant or ungrateful. Peace be upon me the day I was born, the day I die, and the day I will be raised alive." The crowd fell silent. Fear and awe washed over them. For the first time in human history, a newborn had spoken, declaring the truth of his mission. This was Isa, Jesus, the Messiah, born not from sin, but from a miracle of divine will. The Qur'an called him Kalimatullah, the word of Allah, and Ruhun Minhu, a spirit from him. He was a sign for all mankind. Years passed, and Isa grew in wisdom and grace. He was unlike any child. He spoke with maturity far beyond his age. When he reached manhood, Allah blessed him with miracles that reflected divine power, not human magic. He healed the blind, cured the lepers, and even raised the dead, all by the permission of Allah. He shaped a bird from clay, breathed into it, and it came to life again. Only by the will of God, his words carried peace and truth. "Worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord," he said. But many of his people rejected him. The priests saw him as a threat. They accused him of sorcery, of rebellion. Yet Isa spoke only of love, mercy, and obedience to God. In the Bible, too, his story echoes, but through a different lens. The Gospel describes the same birth, the same miracles, yet over time, interpretations shifted. Some began to see him not as a servant of God, but as God himself. They worshipped the messenger instead of the one who sent him. The Quran came centuries later to restore the truth. It called Isa the Messiah, honored and beloved, but also clarified he was never divine. They did not kill him, nor did they crucify him, but it was made to appear so to them, says the Quran. Allah raised him to himself. Isa's life was filled with signs, but every sign pointed back to the one Creator. His miracles were not proof of divinity, but proof of divine mercy. As the sun set on the land of Jerusalem, Isa walked among the poor, the sick, and the forgotten. His heart was gentle, his mission clear. He called people to purify their hearts, to seek forgiveness, to love for the sake of Allah alone. And though betrayal waited in the shadows, his spirit never wavered. For he knew that his time would not end in this world. It would continue until the final days, when he would return once more to bring justice and truth. The story of Isa is not just a tale of the past. It is a mirror for every believer. A reminder that miracles are not confined to prophets, but live within faith itself. That purity, patience, and truth can overcome the loudest lies. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to Islamic Tales Hub, a place where faith and truth come together, where the forgotten stories of prophets and revelation are reborn through words. Let your heart stay connected to the stories that remind us who we truly are. The story of Isa, the son of Maryam, peace be upon him, did not end with miracles. It was only beginning. The more light he spread among his people, the more darkness began to gather around him. The rulers of his time feared the message that freed men's souls from their control. The priests and scribes felt their power tremble when he spoke of a kingdom not of this world, a kingdom of the heart ruled by God alone. In the marketplaces of Jerusalem, people whispered his name with awe. Some said, "He is the Messiah, the one foretold." Others said, "He deceives the people." And behind the curtains of gold and politics, a plan began to form, a plan that would change history forever. Isa knew it. He could see through men's hearts. When he spoke to his followers, there was sadness in his eyes. The son of Mary, he said, has no place to rest his head, yet his words carried peace, not fear. His disciples could not imagine that the man who raised the dead could ever be in danger, but danger was approaching from within. Among the ones who followed him was a man whose faith was weak, a man whose name would become a symbol of betrayal. He smiled with the others, prayed with them, ate with them. But in his heart was greed, the whisper of the accursed one, the love of gold. The night was calm when the soldiers came with torches. The moonlight fell upon olive trees as Isa sat in quiet remembrance, his head bowed, whispering to his Lord. His closest companions were near him, heavy with sleep. In that stillness came footsteps, and then the voice of the traitor calling out to the soldiers, "The one I greet is the one you seek." And he approached Isa with false affection, giving a kiss that history would never forget. But before the soldiers could touch him, a sudden silence filled the air. In that moment, something beyond human understanding took place, something that only the will of Allah could bring. The Quran tells us, they plotted, and Allah is the best of plotters. Those who sought to kill Isa believed they had succeeded, but in truth they were deceived. The likeness of Isa was placed upon another, the very man who betrayed him, and he was taken away, crying in confusion. Isa himself was raised, pure and alive, to the heavens. No human eye witnessed that divine moment, but the heavens did. The angels carried him by God's command, and the earth below remained in darkness, thinking it had claimed a prophet. The world continued in deception, but the truth was with Allah. Meanwhile, in the city, the chaos spread. The rulers announced that the rebel prophet had been executed. The priests celebrated their false victory. The streets filled with confusion. Some wept in disbelief, others rejoiced in ignorance. The disciples hid in fear, their hearts broken, unable to understand how the one who healed the blind could now be gone. But in the silence of the night, Isa's message lived on. His words echoed in their hearts. "Blessed are those who believe though they have not seen. They remembered his miracles, his mercy, his calm in the face of hatred. They remembered how he forgave even those who mocked him. The next morning, rumors began to spread. The body of the man they had crucified did not look like Isa. His face seemed changed. His voice was never heard again. Some of the soldiers swore they had seen something impossible, that the man they captured cried out, not in defiance, but in terror, as if realizing he was trapped in another's form. The priest silenced them, threatening punishment. But whispers continued. In the Qur'an, Allah made it clear, they did not kill him nor did they crucify him, but it appeared so to them. What they saw was illusion. What Allah willed was truth. Isa was not touched by death. He was lifted, honored, and preserved, awaiting a return that would shake the world once more. The centuries passed, and with them came confusion. The followers of Isa divided. Some clung to his message of one God, others turned him into a symbol of divinity itself. The simple message, that God is one and has no partner, became buried beneath councils, politics, and the ambitions of men. But even within their altered texts, traces of truth remained. The Bible still spoke of the one to come, the Son of Man who would return with justice. It spoke of a time when falsehood would be destroyed and the truth would reign. These were signs that only those of faith could truly see. For the Muslims, Isa was never forgotten. In every prayer, his name was remembered with honor. In every heart that loved Allah, there was a quiet belief that Isa, peace be upon him, lives by the will of his Lord, waiting for the appointed hour. As time moved forward, the stories of betrayal became warnings for all believers. Judas, the man who sold faith for silver, became a symbol of how greed blinds the soul. The rulers who plotted against a prophet became lessons for those who use religion to control others. And the disciples who feared became symbols of how human hearts struggle between doubt and faith. Yet, through it all, the light of Isa's message endured. His words in the Qur'an and the Bible call out through centuries, words of love, purity, and justice. He spoke not of wealth or power, but of the kingdom of heaven within every sincere heart. He taught compassion for enemies, forgiveness for the fallen, and love for the Creator above all else. And though the world has changed, the struggle remains the same. Every believer faces the same choice as those who followed Isa, whether to stand firm with truth or to trade it for the comfort of this world. The truth of Isa's story did not fade with time. It only became more mysterious. In distant lands, his name was spoken in different tongues, but not always with the same meaning. To some, he became a divine figure. To others, a legend. Yet for the believers in the truth, he remained what he always was, a messenger of Allah. Born without a father, raised in purity, lifted in honor, and destined to return. In the quiet of the night, his disciples still gathered in secret. The fear of persecution weighed on them, but faith held them together. One of them whispered, "He will come again." He promised, and those words became their hope, their light against a dark world that had forgotten mercy. Years passed, and the powerful reshaped the message he brought. Councils debated his nature, kings used his name for war, and scholars changed words to fit the desires of rulers. The pure monotheism Isa taught, that God is one and only, was buried beneath the idea of the Trinity, a concept Isa never taught, and the Qur'an would later refute clearly. But even through the fog of alteration, the essence of his teachings could not be erased. In the Bible, his compassion remained. In the Qur'an, his truth was preserved. He was a prophet, a servant of Allah, and one of the mightiest messengers to walk the earth. When the Qur'an was revealed centuries later to Prophet Muhammad, it confirmed Isa's story with divine precision. Allah said, "O Jesus, I will take you and raise you to myself and purify you from those who disbelieve." And this became the key to understanding the greatest deception ever recorded: the false belief that Isa was crucified. when in truth he was saved by Allah's own hand. Imagine that moment, the confusion of the soldiers, the rage of the priests, the silence of the skies. The body on the cross was not Isa. His enemies thought they had conquered him, but they had only sealed their own shame. Above them, Isa ascended to a realm beyond sight. His mission on earth paused, not ended, and while the world continued below, angels carried the divine decree that he would one day return not as a new prophet, but as a witness to truth, to break the cross, to end falsehood, to unite mankind once again under the banner of one God. The Qur'an speaks of this promise in simple, powerful words. There is none from the people of the book, but that he will believe in him before his death, and on the day of resurrection he will be a witness against them. This verse was a message to all generations. Isa's story is not over. It never was. The time of his return will come, when the world is filled with deception, when truth is mocked, when tyranny spreads, and when the faithful cry out for justice. In that time he will descend from the heavens, his hands resting on the wings of angels, light surrounding him, his face radiant like the moon on a calm night. The believers will recognize him instantly, not by title or crown, but by the peace that fills their hearts when they see him. He will stand beside the final prophet's community, pray behind their leader, and declare to the world that there is no God but Allah. That return, foretold in both the Bible and the Qur'an, is not a myth but a promise. In the Gospel, Isa spoke of it in parables. The Son of Man will come in the clouds with great power and glory. And in Islam, we are told that he will descend in Damascus, wearing 2 garments lightly dyed in saffron, his hair dripping as though just washed. And he will bring justice to the earth. The tyrants of that future time will tremble. False prophets will be exposed. The great deceiver, Al-Masih ad-Dajjal, the Antichrist, will face his end at the hands of Isa ibn Maryam, who will strike him with a blow that will echo through history. Peace will fill the world once again, but before that moment arrives, the world will continue in confusion. Many will use Isa's name to mislead. Others will twist his message to serve their own greed. And yet every time a believer opens the Qur'an and reads his story, the truth breathes again, clear, pure, untouched. In the hearts of those who seek God sincerely, Isa's story still speaks. It tells of patience when betrayed, faith when alone, mercy when surrounded by hate. It reminds us that no matter how great the plot of men may seem, Allah's plan is always greater. There is something profoundly human in Isa's journey. He was tested, loved, rejected, and honored, all by the decree of his Lord. His life reflects the journey of every soul that strives for truth, the moments of doubt, the whispers of temptation, the betrayal of those we trust, and finally, the divine rescue that only comes when all seems lost. Through Isa's story, Allah teaches the believers that victory is not always what the world sees. Sometimes the truest victory is to be lifted above the reach of your enemies, to be remembered by God when the world forgets you. Isa's ascension is the ultimate sign of that divine justice. Even today, when one reads the Qur'an, the words about him carry a strange serenity. And peace be upon me, the day I was born, the day I die, and the day I am raised alive. This verse, spoken by Isa himself as a child, holds the secret of his destiny. He was born miraculously, he was saved from death, and he will return before the end of time. The world debates who he was, prophet or God, man or myth, but to the believer the answer is simple. He was the chosen servant of Allah, a spirit from him and a sign for all creation. His miracles were real, but his humility was greater than them all. The Bible remembers his words, "Not my will, but yours be done." And the Qur'an confirms that he submitted fully to Allah's will. In both, his essence remains the same: surrender, obedience, and love for the Creator. When Isa returns, he will not seek thrones or crowns. He will come with peace. He will live as a just ruler, break the symbols of falsehood, and restore faith in its purest form. He will show mankind that divinity belongs only to the one who created him, Allah, the Most High. In the end, his story is not just about the past or the future. It is about now, about every heart that chooses between truth and illusion, between faith and pride, between the world and the hereafter. Isa's story asks one question that echoes through time. When the truth stands before you, will you recognize it? So let the story of Isa ibn Maryam remind us of our own purpose. We were not created to chase gold or glory, but to follow the light of faith wherever it leads. Like Isa, we are called to trust in Allah's plan, even when betrayal surrounds us, even when we don't understand why things happen as they do, because just as Allah saved his beloved prophet, he saves every heart that clings to him sincerely. The same divine mercy that lifted Isa to the heavens watches over every believer who holds firm to the truth. And one day, when he returns, the world will know. The truth that was hidden will shine again. The message of all prophets, from Adam to Muhammad, will be united under one call. La ilaha illallah. The winds will carry his name across every land. The cross will break, falsehood will fall, and justice will reign. The same king who once faced betrayal will return with divine power, not to rule by force, but to heal a world broken by arrogance and sin. And when that time comes, there will be no doubt left. No lies left standing. The world will see the truth that was always there, that Isa, son of Maryam, was never crucified, never defeated, never gone. He was always under the protection of the Almighty, awaiting the hour when he will return to complete his story. Until then, his words remain for every believer who feels lost, betrayed, or afraid. Do not fear, for the Lord is with you. And the Qur'an echoes the same eternal promise. Indeed, Allah is with those who are patient, so hold to patience, to faith, to truth. For the story of Isa is not only his story, it is ours. And when the angel's trumpet sounds and the heavens open once more, we will see him descend, the final chapter of a promise kept since the beginning of time. The sun hung low over Damascus. The sky burned in hues of crimson and gold, as if the heavens themselves were whispering a message. The end of deceit, the dawn of truth. For years, the world had fallen into darkness. The Dajjal had walked upon the earth, the false Messiah, a deceiver whose words bent the minds of men. He spoke of peace, but brought only confusion. Nations followed him, blinded by miracles that hid chains beneath their glow. And among the believers, fear spread like smoke. But in that same world, faith still pulsed quietly in the hearts of those who remembered Allah's promise. In a small mosque where few dared to pray, the Imam led a humble group in Fajr. His voice trembled yet firm, echoing through the cracked walls. Guide us to the straight path. And then the air shifted. A fragrance unlike any known scent drifted in, pure, heavenly, and calm. The worshippers froze, their hearts racing. The Imam turned his gaze toward the minaret, for he knew what generations had awaited. From the eastern sky, between two white minarets, descended a figure wrapped in light. His hands rested gently on the shoulders of two angels. His hair glistened as if pearls had fallen upon it, and his face radiated peace. He wore no crown, no sword, yet his presence silenced the wind. It was Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus, son of Mary, descending from the heavens as promised. The believers fell to their knees, tears filling their eyes. The Imam stepped back, trembling, unable to speak. But Isa, A.S., smiled softly and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Lead the prayer," he said, in a voice filled with mercy. The Imam shook his head. "O Spirit of Allah, the world has waited for you. You are more worthy." Isa, A.S., replied, "No, this Ummah is the nation of Muhammad. I have come to follow, not to lead." And so the Prophet of Allah prayed behind a humble man, a moment that shattered every illusion of pride and reminded humanity that all greatness belongs to Allah alone. After the prayer, Isa, A.S., arose. The people gathered silent. The world beyond those mosque walls trembled under Dajjal's dominion. But now hope had returned. Isa A.S. spoke, "The truth has been veiled for too long. I have not come with a new message, but to restore the message that was lost, that Allah is one, and none deserves worship but Him." His words spread through the city like light in the dark. Rumors reached the ears of Dajjal. The deceiver knew his time was ending. Far away, in the deserts of Palestine, Dajjal stood upon a black stallion, his single eye blazing with fury. "So he has come," he hissed. His armies gathered, men of greed, jinn of rebellion, and humans who had sold their souls for illusions of power. But Isa A.S. moved not with armies, but with faith. He walked among people, healing the broken-hearted, reminding them of the mercy of Allah. Churches, mosques, and ruins alike heard his voice calling humanity back to the same truth, the same God. And then came the day when light and darkness met near the gates. Of blood, a dusty plain. Beneath a silent sky, two armies faced each other. On one side, Isa A.S. stood with the believers, their numbers small but hearts firm. On the other, Dajjal towered with his false might, his followers chanting his name like a curse. The wind grew still. Dajjal raised his hand. "O son of Mary," he mocked. "You were worshipped once. Will you now worship me?" Isa A.S.'s eyes blazed with divine fury. He stepped forward, no sword in hand, no weapon but truth. He said only, "You lie." At that word, the false Messiah began to tremble. His strength faded, his arrogance shattered. Isa A.S. moved toward him calm as dawn. The Dajjal screamed, commanding his followers to strike, but their weapons turned useless in their hands. And when Isa A.S. reached him, he blew upon him, and Dajjal melted, his body dissolving like salt in water. The armies froze. Silence swallowed the battlefield. The great deceiver was no more, and for the first time in generations, the earth breathed peace. But Isa A.S. knew this was not the end. The trials of men were not yet over. He turned to the believers. "Now begins the rebuilding," he said. "Not of walls, but of hearts." And so began the age of justice. Isa A.S. ruled with wisdom and humility. Under his guidance, oppression ended, greed vanished, and faith returned to every corner of the world. Lions walked beside children, and wealth became so abundant that no one was left to receive charity. The cross was broken, falsehood destroyed, and truth stood clear as the sun. Isa A.S. taught the Qur'an and revived the way of Muhammad. Nations that had fought for centuries now stood united under one faith. Years passed, and peace blanketed the earth like gentle rain. But Isa A.S. knew that his time too would one day come to an end. For he was a servant of Allah, and to Allah all return. The sun rose gently over a world reborn. Under the just rule of Isa ibn Maryam A.S., the earth seemed to breathe again. Rivers flowed pure, crops grew in abundance, and hearts once filled with hatred softened with faith. Humanity had seen the face of truth and tasted peace after centuries of deception. No tyrants ruled now. No corruption spread, for Isa A.S. walked among his people, teaching humility, reminding them of the mercy of their Creator. He sat with the poor, spoke with the orphans, and judged with fairness that astonished even his closest followers. Everywhere he went, he repeated the same words: "Worship Allah alone, the most merciful, the most just. I am not your God, I am His servant." The cross was no longer a symbol of worship, and the false images of Him that men had once made were destroyed. The world had learned again that Isa A.S. was a prophet, not divine, a man chosen by Allah to guide humanity, not to be worshipped by it. And under his leadership, people returned to the Qur'an. They recited, reflected, and lived by its truth. The echo of La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, rose from every land. But peace, even in its purest form, was not to last forever. One night, Isa A.S. prayed long after the world had fallen asleep. The stars shimmered above him, and the cool wind brushed through the trees. In his heart, he felt a heaviness, a sign from Allah that another trial was coming, and so it began. Far to the north, deep beneath a vast mountain range, ancient barriers trembled. These were not mountains made by men, but the walls that Dhul-Qarnayn had once built, walls that held back two nations cursed with chaos, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Gog and Magog. The Qur'an had spoken of them, wild, destructive and countless in number. When Allah decreed, their barrier would crumble, and that time had come. The first crack sounded like thunder, then the ground shook. A storm of dust rose as the walls shattered. From within they poured forth like a flood, fierce, screaming, unstoppable. They devoured everything in their path, leaving ruin where life once flourished. Their faces were hard, their eyes wild, their hearts empty of mercy. They swept across valleys and cities like locusts, drinking every river dry, consuming every grain. Word reached Isa, A.S., in the Holy Land. The believers came to him frightened. "O Prophet of Allah," they said, "they are coming. They destroy everything. What should we do?" Isa, A.S., remained calm. "Fear not," he said, "for this too was written. Prepare yourselves and place your trust in Allah." He led the believers to the Mount of Tur, a place of refuge chosen by Allah. There they took shelter, watching the horizon burn as Ya'juj and Ma'juj filled the earth below. Days turned to weeks. The believers had little food, and their hearts trembled with hunger. Isa, A.S., raised his hands and prayed, "O Allah, sustainer of all creation, grant us your mercy. Save us from this trial," and Allah answered. A disease struck Ya'juj and Ma'juj, unseen, unstoppable. In a single night, their mighty hordes fell silent. Their bodies covered the land like waves upon waves. Until the earth could no longer bear their stench, Isa, A.S., prayed again, and Allah sent birds with necks like camels to carry away the remains, cleansing the earth once more. Then came rain, pure, endless, washing every trace of corruption away. When it ended, the world looked new again, greener than ever before. The air was fresh, the skies clear. The believers descended from the mountain, grateful and humbled. Isa, A.S., walked among them, smiling softly. "This is the mercy of Allah," he said. "Never forget how fragile the world becomes when man forgets his creator." Years passed and peace returned once more. But Isa, A.S., was aging. Though his face still shone with the light of prophecy, he felt the nearness of his departure. He gathered his followers and spoke, "My time among you is ending. I was sent not to bring new law, but to restore the truth that was lost, that Allah alone is worthy of worship, and Muhammad is his final messenger." Tears filled their eyes. They begged him to stay, but Isa, A.S., only smiled. "Every soul shall return to its Lord. Remain steadfast, and Allah will raise you among the truthful." And when his final hour came, Isa, A.S., prayed in solitude. The earth was silent, as if listening to its beloved prophet one last time. He knelt and whispered, "O Allah, you sent me as a sign, and to you I return as a servant. Forgive my people, guide them, and protect those who believe in you." Then his soul was taken gently, not in fear, but in peace. The believers buried him where he had lived, near the Prophet Muhammad, in Medina as foretold. And though his body rested, his message lived on, eternal in the words of the Qur'an. And there is none from the people of the book, but that he will believe in him before his death. And on the day of resurrection, he will be a witness against them. Qur'an 4:159. Generations came and went. Faith would again fade. The world would again change. And time would march toward its final end. But the story of Isa, A.S., remained. A beacon for those who sought truth. In him, Islam and the Bible converged. The Christians saw him as divine, the Muslims as a prophet, But Isa as himself had said it best. I am a servant of Allah. He has given me the book and made me a prophet, and that truth, pure, unbroken and everlasting, stands until the final trumpet is blown. For one day the mountains will crumble, the seas will boil, and the earth will give up its secrets. And Isa will stand again, not as a man to be worshipped, but as a witness to the oneness of Allah. The sky will split open, the graves will awaken, every tongue will confess what Isa taught, that there is no God but Allah, and all prophets spoke the same truth, and those who held to faith quietly, steadfastly, will be gathered in peace. As for the arrogant, the deceivers, the proud, they will see that power, miracles, and wealth were nothing but dust before the majesty of the Creator, and in that eternal light, Isa will smile once more, for his mission will be complete. Truth will have triumphed over falsehood, mercy over pride, and faith over deception.